Hi students, this is the second part of the bone conduction implant lecture where we will be discussing about an overview on various surgical approaches involved in bone conduction implantation followed by the complications of bone conduction implantation surgery. The surgical technique varies depending upon what type of implant is chosen, whether it is percutaneous or transcutaneous. It also depends upon whether the surgeon has opted for single stage surgery or two stage procedure. It also depends upon individual implants manufacturer guidelines and specifications. With respect to single stage surgery or two stage surgery, whenever the cortical bone thickness is greater than 3 mm or the cortical bone quality is good, then the surgeons will go for a single stage surgery. When the cortical bone is compromised, soft or irradiated, or if the thickness of the bone is less than 3 mm, then the surgeons opt for two-stage surgery. The two-stage surgery is also used whenever the bone conduction implantation is performed in conjunction with other surgery like the removal of acoustic tumor. The surgical techniques involves various skin flaps at the site of implantation. This skin flap technique is now replaced by linear incision technique where there is minimal damage at the site of implantation, and this reduces the risk of skin problems in the first 3 months post implantation. There is another approach called as tissue preservation technique where the reduction of soft tissues at the site of implantation is reduced. In previous surgeries at earlier stages, what happens is that whenever the tissue is not removed, there can be a projection outside the site of implantation due to the presence of abutment. So surgeons used to remove the soft tissues closer to the site of implantation so that it provides space for the abutment to sit. Now the use of hydroxyapatite coated abutments reduces the tissue reduction. So through this tissue preservation technique, there is limited bleeding during surgery. It reduces the uses of coagulation materials. Hence, there is lesser risk of nerve lesions and numbness or pain after surgery. Let us see how the skin flap technique is used for bone conduction implantation. The surgical site is marked and local anesthesia is provided. A dermatome is used to take a skin flap. Once the skin flap is made, the soft tissues and the periosteum is removed. Then the site of implantation is marked on the skull bone. The thickness of the skin is measured using a gauge to choose appropriate length of abutment. Then the surgical site or the implantation site is drilled. The cortical bone is drilled till 3 mm or 4 mm depending upon the thickness of the skull bone as measured using a high resolution CT scan. A seeker is used to measure whether sufficient depth is drilled. The seeker can also be used to feel the dura under the skull bone. Caution has to be made that the dural layer should not be damaged. Once sufficient depth is achieved, the bone conduction implant along with the abutment is inserted at the site of implantation. Then the skin is punctured at the site of abutment so that the abutment can be exposed to the outside the skin. Once that is done, the skin flap is replaced and suture is done at the site of implantation. This is linear incision technique. First, the site of implantation is marked. The point where the implant has to go and the abutment has to protrude outside the skin has to be marked. A linear incision anterior to that particular marking has to be done. Once the incision is made, retractor is used to retract the skin and soft tissues away from the site of implantation. The periosteum is removed to expose the cortical skull bone. Once the bone is exposed, a driller is used to drill to sufficient depth for the bone conduction implant. Once drilling is done, the bone conduction implant along with the abutment is slowly inserted at the site of implantation. Once that is completed, a puncture is done on the skin, enabling the abutment to be exposed outside the skin. Then the linear incision is sutured. So this technique is called as linear incision technique. There is no reduction of soft tissue in this particular approach. A further minimally invasive approach is used by Ponto surgery, where there is no incision made. The site of implantation is marked and a skin puncture is used at the site of implantation. The skin and the soft tissues at the site of implantation is removed along with the periosteum. Then a cannula is used to guide in such a way that the soft tissues are not disturbed. With this cannula in place, the driller is used to drill the cortical bone to sufficient depth. Once that drilling is done, the implant along with the abutment is slowly inserted at the site of implantation. Once it is tightly fit, the driller is removed. So the surgery is done. There is no incision made, no unwanted tissue reduction, no bleeding. So this is the minimally invasive procedure. With respect to the surgical approach for vibrant bone bridge, first a lazy S-shaped incision is made behind the auricle. After the incision, retractor is used to retract the skin and the soft tissues away from the site of implantation. Periosteum is removed. Then a bed is made on the cortical bone for the bone vibrator to sit. Two drills are made closer to the bed to keep the bone vibrator at its position. A retraction pocket is made to house the receiver stimulator. So after these things are done, the receiver stimulator is placed in its position. The bone conduction vibrator is placed in the cortical bone bed. Screws are used to tighten the bone vibrator, and this helps in keeping the transducer in position. Once this is done, the soft tissues are sutured together, then the skin is sutured together. The whole implant lies below the skin. This is a transcutaneous implant. With respect to complications of bone conduction implantation, intraoperatively there can be intraoperative bleeding. This happens especially whenever a soft tissue reduction is done. There can be high risk of dural injury and CSF leakage when the drilling is done to excessive depth. So this can happen most frequently in children with less cortical bone thickness. In this condition, we can opt for two-stage surgery. We can drill the cortical bone with the guide drill using 3 and 4 millimeter spacers. Seeker can be used to feel the dura so that we can prevent the dural injury. In case if the dural injury has occurred and there is CSF leakage, then that has to be closed. Mere implant fixture can act as a seal to stop small CSF leakage. The surgery in children with lesser cortical bone thickness can be delayed until the age of 4 or 5 years. Perioperatively, there can be epidural hematoma. There can be complete or partial loss of skin graft at the site of implantation. The infection on the skin or closer to the abutment region is more common in percutaneous implants. There can be excessive skin growth. The skin overgrowth tends to occur about 12 months after implantation surgery. There can be loss of osseointegration around 6.3 months after surgery. Similar to that of skin overgrowth, there can also be bone overgrowth. These points leads to the extrusion of the implant. The skin overgrowth, loss of osseointegration or bone overgrowth can extrude the implant. There are chances for occipital neuropathy immediately after surgery. Entrapment of occipital nerve can result in occipital neuropathy, which leads to acute pain at the neck region. This prevents the individuals to use the implant. So in such conditions, the implant has to be extruded. These are the references used for this part of the lecture. Thank you.